Greetings, Substack friends. It's early morning. Well, not really super early, but it's morning. And I'm recording this 2 days after Christmas. Now that I've had a whole day to rest. Boy, oh man, I just don't like the holidays. There's no way around it. I don't like them. I don't like the pressure. I don't like the responsibilities that pile up, the feeling of trying to make so many people happy while maintaining my own stress and my own stressful patterns and memories coming up and trying to manage those on top of everything else. I find it exhausting. And while I managed to have a good time, I still woke up yesterday just completely fried. And I spent the whole day watching season 2 of Dirty John, and it was really good. I just needed to zone out. I just needed to be absent for a while, and I feel much better this morning. And so this morning I was thinking about how I'd like to write a blog post or do a video on the topic of how using the voice requires so much energy. And I think this is something that is very much underappreciated. I don't think many people think about how much energy is required to use your voice. And I'm not even talking about as a singer, because singing takes way more energy than speaking. But speaking takes a lot of energy, and we do more of it. At least many of us do. There are some people who don't have to use their voices that much. They do silent work. They work from home. They don't have a lot of people around them. But for a lot of people, myself included, I speak a lot, and I was reflecting on this, on how much energy is used, because, we had Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, we had events, and now we have guests in our house, and I was thinking about how all I want to do is just be quiet. That's how I felt yesterday. Hence the reason I'm recording this today. I'm feeling energized again, and I have the bandwidth to communicate again. But I was thinking about this yesterday, about how exhausting, once you are to the point of exhaustion, the last thing you want to do is talk or be articulate. That's the thing I'm talking about. It's not just about yes, no, not the mechanical act of using the voice, but the responsibility of speaking, which doesn't just require sound to come out, but your brain has to pull up all these files about vocabulary words and how to form sentences together and how to form paragraphs together so that they make sense. You have to be able to anticipate the listener's potential confusion if you want to be an articulate speaker. And I know that a lot of people don't have a gift for being articulate or coherent or even really good at communication. I know a lot of people are simply doing the best they can, and it can be exhausting at the end of the day. Or they may even have bigger troubles, like getting into relationships or maintaining friendships, because they don't have this skill. But I believe it's a skill that can be learned. I 100% believe it, because while I do think that some people do have somewhat of a natural talent, I do think I had potential. When I was younger, I think it was obvious that I had potential. There were moments I can look back on. For the most part, I had to really learn. My communication style got me into a lot of trouble when I was growing up, with adults, with friends, with peers, relationships. And then as I became an adult and had to make a living, I feared that my inability to be articulate all the time would cost me my livelihood. And then, while I never lost, well, that's not true. Well, no, I never lost a job, but I did burn bridges, and part of working life is building relationships over time. And there were some bridges that I burned because of my lack of communication skills. And since then, I've had a lot of time to work on it. And so one of the things I want to do is make a YouTube video on this topic. And I'm going to do that this week. I'll probably write an article. And by the way, Substack has an option where they can easily host a podcast for me, and I can easily turn every single voice memo into a podcast episode. Is that something that you guys are interested in? That would mean you could go to Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere where you get podcasts, and you'd be able to access all of these voice episodes. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. I think that this could be really useful information for some people, because I believe truly that the most inarticulate person wants to be articulate. And it's not that they're not trying, they just don't know what to do to become more articulate and a better communicator. And so I came up with a list of things. It's just in my head right now. And so I'm going to get this out onto audio, and hopefully I can remember everything. But the first thing I thought of was that it's very much an energy practice, this art of speaking and communication. And so your energy body has to be healthy with a strong foundation of being well rested. So you have to make sleep a priority. Whatever that means for you, however many hours a night you need to be totally replenished, you have to make it a priority. If you're not getting enough sleep, you don't have enough energy to do anything. And so speaking articulately is going to be very difficult. You also need to have lots of nutrient-dense food in your diet. It's a good idea to learn basics of nutrition, because I know in America, where I live, this is a country that does not take care of its people when it comes to nutrition. This is a country of industry. And so if something tastes good, it will be sold. And there is absolutely no concern about the health consequences. And so what ends up happening is you have a lot of people who are very sick and don't understand why. And a lot of times the answer can be found on what they've been putting into their bodies. And just to put it very simply, my opinion is that I think a lot of people are actually very malnourished. So even if they have enough money and they have enough food, they're malnourished because they're not getting enough nutrients. This is why I eat a mainly raw vegan diet. It's not because I think it's superior in any way. It's just easier for me to get a lot of nutrients into my diet, because plants have a high level of antioxidants, which are necessary for defeating toxins in your body, free radicals, anything that's trying to fight your immune system. Antioxidants take care of that. And raw fruits and vegetables have a high level of antioxidants. They're also very hydrating, which leads me to the third thing. You have to be hydrated. Water is essential for having healthy energy levels, and it also helps your voice. So there's that too. So that's base level self-care. Sleep, food, water. And then you have to tackle the physical part, the movement. Bouncing up and down is essential for keeping your energy system healthy and flowing, because when we bounce, the lymphatic system has a chance to move more efficiently. And the lymphatic system is designed to cleanse the body of toxins. it's part of the body's cleansing system. We have the digestive organs and we have the lymphatic system. And when you bounce up and down, you get the toxins to go through the lymph to the lymph nodes where they are released. And so bouncing, it's better. It's just better if you can get some bouncing in. And the way you can do that is you can run. So the running action, you're bouncing on the pavement. There's rebounding, trampolines. There's jump roping. There's jumping jacks. There's aerobics, like the 80s style aerobics. There's a lot of bouncing in aerobics. There's also certain types of dancing will have a lot of bouncing in it. But consider trying to put something into your life that has that bouncing action, because that will help clear out your system and provide you with more energy. And then, of course, there's also walking, which doesn't provide the lymphatic bouncing, but it is a left-right movement that you do on a rhythmic basis, which helps to balance out the left brain and the right brain. And this balancing act is really good for creating a rested mind. Another great thing about walking is that there are reflexology points on the soles of your feet. And every time you press down, you may not be hitting every one of those points, but you're hitting a lot of them. And so it can be very soothing to the mind because the whole body becomes relaxed. Stretching is really helpful. Yoga or Pilates or weightlifting does a lot of good for the muscles of the body. Stretching is especially important because, especially with yoga, you stretch a lot of the muscles that contribute to breathing. And we have to have a good handle on breathing in order to have a lot of energy. Breathing is really our first fuel. If we stop breathing, we stop living. All the other stuff comes next. So think about those things. Now, here's the next thing. This is the really fun part. This is where it gets fun because, everything you want to do in life requires adequate sleep, food. It's old news, but we have to point it out because it does matter a lot. But here's where the real learning comes from in my experience. You have to listen to articulate speakers. You have to seek out role models. People who not only have pleasant voices, but who have an interesting way of putting sentences together. People who are really good at sharing their knowledge. People who can communicate with others and always get along with them. People who are charming and charismatic, even while they're controversial. I started doing this about 16 years ago when I discovered someone, a very controversial figure, which I actually listen to a lot of controversial figures. And it's not because I agree with any of them. It's not about listening to people I agree with. What I'm doing is I'm fascinated by people who speak well and who are good communicators and can articulate their ideas in a way that is genuine and authentic and heartfelt and intelligent, and people who have original ways of saying things and original thoughts. I like people who have a diverse set of beliefs, meaning one of my biggest pet peeves, and especially today's era, but this has always been around really, but it's so obvious now because of the internet, is that when you hear somebody state a certain belief, whether it's a political belief or a religious belief, or they label themselves with a certain ideology system, it's so easy to guess what all their other beliefs are, right? You know what I'm talking about. You hear somebody says that they are fill in the blank with whatever label, whatever identification label, and then you can immediately determine what they think about other things of social value. You can determine what they believe in as far as marriage or having children or a diet that they should follow or attitudes about school or government. It's just like, it's so easy to predict what other people believe as soon as you know one thing they identify with. And what I love to seek out is I love to seek out people who have a diversity of opinions, because to me, that's a sign of real authenticity. That is a sign of somebody who doesn't follow an algorithm or follow an ideology. This is somebody who sits with their own thoughts and listens to everybody and comes up with unique ideas. And I really love people like that. And so I'll share with you, with all of that preface, the person who really inspired me the most when I was going through my healing process was Christopher Hitchens. And for those who don't know who he was a lot of things. He was a journalist first. He was a prominent atheist who debated religious leaders. And that was how I found him. I found him watching some of his religious debates. And I was just blown away by how articulate he was. His vocabulary made me realize that the English language is actually quite beautiful, which is something I truly did not understand before I heard him. I thought that I was just born speaking a language that is inherently ugly and is only meant for practicality and industry. But Christopher Hitchens, who was an Englishman who really valued the English language, he really valued poetry and the great artists of the past. And so he had this very poetic way of speaking, and he had a mastery over the English language that was so beautiful and hypnotizing to watch. And even when he was calling people fools, which he did, he still was able to recognize the humanity within every single person. So even if he disagreed with your belief system, your religious belief system, it was very clear to me that he recognized the humanity in everyone, and that he cared very much about the dignity of people. And he had a lot of opinions I did not agree with, but I loved him. And I was sad when he died. I was really sad, because I remember thinking, who am I going to look up to now as far as speakers go? Because there just were not any at the time. But since then, I have to say I have been able to discover many intelligent speakers on YouTube mostly. And it's good to find as many people as you can who speak with, well, let's break this down. What makes somebody a really good speaker? And this is the reason I'm sharing this on the topic of preserving your energy, is that these people never got tired of speaking, because they would always speak at a slow pace. They were aware that every sentence builds on the next. And so if you're trying to share something that's complex or even controversial, you need to give people a lot of context. And so the reason why Christopher Hitchens was so successful at charming everybody, I mean, religious leaders loved him, even if he made them feel foolish in moments, because he could be pretty cutthroat. But at the end of the day, they could all get together and they respected each other as humans. And that was one of the things that always stuck out for me about him. And I lost my train of thought. I was saying, the thing about him and others that I have now started looking up to over the last decade or so is that I've realized that when you want to share something that's either complicated or complex or controversial, you have to give people a lot of context. And that requires being able to think several steps ahead. And the only way you can do that is if you are totally present with your mind. You are in control of the pacing. You know your own thoughts and your own beliefs and your own mind. You know it. You're not a slave to the algorithm or whatever dogma is being pushed out by the communities that you inhabit. Another thing I've noticed, like when I'm looking for a a speaker to look up to is I pay attention to how much trendy phrases and internet slang that they use. Because it's a red flag for me when I hear people using slang or trendy phrases. 1, no big deal. 2, I'm starting to wonder. I'm starting to anticipate 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. But maybe it stops at 2. Maybe it's something that you just pepper in these phrases every now and then. But every time I hear it, especially if it's really new, a really new phrase, I start to wonder, how authentic is this person? How much of their own mind do they actually have control over? Because, let's face it, we live in an era where the battle for your mind is very real. Your attention is now the number one commodity, more than anything else, more than your dollars. It's your attention. And so when I think of the people that I look up to, the reason I like people who have controversial opinions, even if I don't agree with their opinions, is because I know they're thinking for themselves. If they have like a whole list of beliefs that fit neatly into one category, no, that's different. But someone who's controversial usually has at least 1 or 2 opinions I can agree with, because the reason why they're controversial is because they say things that are unpopular. And someone who is courageous enough to say something unpopular, knowing they'll be ridiculed for it, is usually someone who has a pretty healthy streak of authenticity. So anyway, I'm going to stop here. I've been talking for quite a while, but if you've hung in this long, thank you for listening. I'm really excited about this new feature on Substack. And let me know if you want me to put it into a podcast. It's really easy for me to do. It's just 1 extra step, and I just need to set it up. So let me know if that's something you're interested in.